Part 68. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 695. Zhongqing was not surprised to see Lu Chang'an here. No matter where he appeared, he would make people feel appropriate or in contrast with the surrounding environment and atmosphere. Those white wreaths, piles of paper money stamped with copper coins, banknotes from the Bank of Hades, large and small paper houses, circles of red firecrackers, Lu Chang'an's tall figure, and the faint smile on his face, all match together, but it looks like a genre painting. Many labels that signify the passing of vitality and the end of life cannot dilute his feeling of being lush and green, fresh and full of vitality like a forest. Zhongqing remembered that time when he met him while shopping for groceries on the old street, and then he was almost hit by an electric car. He held his waist in his arms and smelled his scent. It was such a feeling. Thinking of this, Zhongqing inadvertently raised his hand and pressed his waist, which felt a little crispy. Lu Chang'an, before Zhongqing could say hello, Bai Hui beside him could not help but trot a few steps, then jumped up and down and waved. Zhongqing was a little confused. His little cousin must have been very happy to meet Lu Chang'an by chance, but was the enthusiasm that was immediately exuded today a bit too unreserved? Generally speaking, girls with a personality like Bai Hui's, when they have a crush, are often particularly concerned about not letting the other person discover their emotions. They are always reserved and carefully hide their thoughts. It's Xiongda and Xiong Er. Lu Chang'an laughed and looked at his cousins standing under the shops on both sides of the street. The snow in the middle of the street was pushed to both sides, and piled up in front of the shop. It was a bit black and gray, and dirty with melted snow water flowing. There was a feeling of dampness and coldness everywhere. The two sisters were wearing coats, but they looked a little thin and cool inside. Crewneck shirt. Maternal genes are decisive for physical fitness, so the cousins Zhongqing and Bai Hui are very similar in stature, but Zhongqing is more mature after all. Why are you here? Lu Chang'an also walked over and stood with them. Our home is nearby, and it's not far from the restaurant where we often go to eat barbecue. It takes a few minutes to drive to my home from here. Bai Hui quickly explained clearly. What are you doing here? Buy more powerful fireworks and salutes, because there are still many people who buy fireworks and salutes and take them back to their hometowns to pay homage to their relatives. In many towns and villages outside the city, there are still pieces of ancestral graves in the mountains and fields, where fireworks and salutes are set off. There is no limit. We're also here to buy some firecrackers. My dad and his brother died last year. This year it's a more important memorial ceremony. My mom said we still have to do it. Zhongqing said calmly. Everyone dies, the hatred has faded, but the feelings are of course also more indifferent. Lu Chang'an nodded to express his understanding. Zhongqing's father was the kind of garbage man who beat his wife for fun, beat his wife when there was nothing wrong, beat his wife when nothing happened, beat his wife when everything went wrong, and even disliked his wife for not giving him a son. Looking at Zhongqing's appearance and figure, we know that her mother must have been a beauty when she was young. Actually, I don't think it's necessary. It would be better to cut off all contact from now on and pretend that I never knew anyone there. Bai Hui said angrily. It's just that he died too early. He should have been allowed to see more of his cousin. The scenery is such that a high-rise building is built next to his house, and luxury cars park in front of his house every day, making the gambler jealous. What glory do I have? Zhongqing teased. I'm not as famous as you. Now I bought a house by myself. I didn't even buy a house. Bai Hui was a little embarrassed, and then remembered that she had money in her account now. After all, she still had something to do with Lu Chang'an. From gold coins to stock trading, everything had something to do with him. Thinking of this, she felt a little sweet in her heart and couldn't help but look at him softly. By Lu Chang'an. Zhongqing saw Bai Hui's eyes and didn't stare too much. He only needed one look to confirm whether his little cousin was having an affair with Lu Chang'an. This is no longer reserved at all, as if he doesn't mind Lu Chang'an knowing that he likes him. Zhongqing thought this and casually asked Lu Chang'an, "Have you made an appointment with Bai Hui to meet here?" "No. Didn't I be dragged here to accompany you?" Bai Hui explained quickly to prevent her cousin from misunderstanding that she had any ambiguity with Lu Chang'an. "It's better to meet by chance than to invite. We can go shopping together in coffin shops, funeral supplies stores, etc. What is your relationship with the person you are commemorating, and what quality of funeral supplies should you buy? You can ask me. I can make the right decision," Lu Chang'an warmly invited. If you go shopping in the mall, you don't want to accompany me," Bai Hui snarled. "It's really annoying. You just talk about unreliable things. If we meet in the mall, he won't said this. I think you're quite free, come with us." Zhongqing gently tugged at Lu Chang'an's clothes. Lu Chang'an thought for a moment that there was indeed nothing to do in the afternoon and nodded. Bai Hui held Zhongqing's arm and jumped, feeling a little happy. "The custom here is that people who died this year will start paying respects on the New Year's Eve. Relatives and friends will come to set off firecrackers and offer some fruits to express their condolences. Those who are close to each other usually come from the New Year's Eve and continue until the New Year's Eve. 7th and 8th days." After the worship, Bai Hui walked out. Bai Hui, who had been looking at his enemy just now, asked strangely, "Why are they all so obedient? I thought they would jump up and scold my cousin indiscriminately. In the past, I heard my mother say that when my aunt just went to Taiwan, people from the Zhong family often looked for trouble and always said some unpleasant things to scold my aunt, even my mother scolded her. The common people are the best at understanding current affairs. Your sister is also very wealthy now. If they knew more about it, they would even know that your sister has a wide range of connections. People are already dead. How unworthy is it to offend Zhongqing because of Zhongqing's father? Her uncles and elders each have their own lives and families. Who would offend Zhongqing without knowing current affairs? What's the benefit?" Lu Chang'an said lightly. "Death is like a lamp going out, leaving a wisp of smoke. Dispersed in the blink of an eye. In my impression, I thought they would beat and curse people, and chase my cousin all over the place, so I feel relieved that Lu Chang'an can come." Bai Hui nodded in panic. "That was done to create conflicts in novels, movies, and TV shows. Of course there are some in reality, but not many, unless Zhongqing is still someone they can beat and scold at will. They have enough courage." Lu Chang'an, seeing that Zhongqing's mood seemed to be affected a little, he patted Zhongqing on the shoulder and said, "Go get 2 bottles of wine and go back to the hotel room to drink some with Bai Hui. Then will you drink with us?" Bai Hui looked sideways at Lu Chang'an in an innocent manner. Zhongqing rolled his eyes at his little cousin. "2 women are drinking in a hotel room, and you want to invite a man to drink with the door behind closed doors. What are you thinking about? It's one thing to believe in Lu Chang'an's character, but as a girl, you should be more reserved. This invitation is simply saying, I'll get drunk later to see if you are a beast or worse than a beast." "You are really good at enlightening people," Zhongqing said angrily to Lu Chang'an, and also hit Bai Hui, reminding her, "I will have New Year's Eve dinner at Bai Hui's house tonight, and I won't stay in the hotel tonight." "Yes, I forgot." Bai Hui touched the place where Zhongqing hit him and thought about it with some regret. "Mom said she would go home early in the evening and ask me to help make dumplings. It's strange, it's also the New Year. Eating dumplings is like a northerner. Dumplings are a global food. For example, Italy, Ukraine, and Russia all have the tradition of eating dumplings. They are eaten in both the north and the south of our country, but dumplings are more important in the north. They are considered supreme among New Year foods." Lu Chang'an said with a little nostalgia, "It's not as delicious as dumplings." "If you didn't say this last sentence, it would be quite a serious science popularization." Zhongqing laughed. "Cousin, why do you say dirty things? He doesn't mean that at all, does he?" Bai Hui said angrily. "What's the problem?" Lu Chang'an looked at Zhongqing and Bai Hui in confusion flashing in his clear eyes. Ah, it's that dumpling that tastes better than anything. It's so fun and stuff. Bai Hui wanted to maintain his image, but when he saw Lu Chang'an's dark and clear eyes, he couldn't help but want to remind him. Oh, I understand. It's not as delicious as dumplings, and it's not as fun as white fennel. Lu Chang'an nodded and laughed twice. You're teasing me. Bai Hui was very embarrassed. This man was really pretending to be decent, and she really thought he didn't know. I'm just teasing you because it's fun. That's what Lu Chang'an meant by fun and nothing else. Hey, it's really hard not to fall for your bait. Zhongqing nodded with a pun. Even she was deceived by Lu Chang'an's eyes for a moment, but she quickly judged rationally, what's wrong with this guy Lu Chang'an? Maybe you don't even know such popular dirty talk. The little cousin is silly and really funny, so she is fooled by his teasing. Let's go, I'm going to buy a sky cannon. Lu Chang'an was thinking about his spiral ascent performance, turned around, shook his hand and separated from the two sisters. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 696. Lu Chang'an never found a suitable cannon, so he bought many more fireworks and salutes. The store gave him a stick and tied the salutes together for him to carry back. Normal people know how to take a taxi. The store owner walked out, his mouth slightly open, and stood on tiptoe watching Lu Chang'an skillfully carry his shoulders and leave. What a thrifty and capable young man. Lu Chang'an returned home, put down the salute gun he carried on his shoulder, and saw Zhou Dongdong's eyes were red and moist. Did you hit Zhou Dongdong? Lu Chang'an shouted into the kitchen. What happened? Looking at her aggrieved look, did you not ask clearly what happened? She took an onion and peeled it there. She did it herself, Zhou Shuling replied in the kitchen. Why do you blame me? I thought you hit me, but I didn't even see it, so it would be boring. Lu Chang'an laughed immediately, then squatted in front of Zhou Dongdong and laughed twice to mock her. Zhou Dongdong took out a candy from his pocket and stuffed it into Lu Chang'an's mouth, blocking his laughter. Then he took a candy, peeled it open and ate it. Shang Guanduntun sat next to the electric heating table after lunch, holding a thermos and squinting his eyes to sleep. Hearing Lu Chang'an's voice, he clenched his fist and pushed his cheek. You're back, have you bought a cannon? A salute, not a cannon. Lu Chang'an tore the plastic paper with one bite of his teeth. He held the candy with his tongue and spat out the package. I bought a lot of them, just for you and children like Zhou Dongdong to play with at night. Zhou Dongdong found a bunch of fireworks salutes brought back by Lu Chang'an and happily went to find a lighter. I'm not a child, but you can play with me. Shang Guandandan drank water first. He drank water first when he woke up from a nap. After drinking the water, Shang Guandandan moved over and saw a long string on a salute gun. He stretched out his hand and pulled it out. It was still a little difficult, and then asked, what is this for? This is the fuse. Light it and the salute will go off. Lu Chang'an didn't pay attention to her just now. Sure enough, he was just like Zhou Dongdong, he could cause damage if he didn't pay attention. So Shang Guandandan tried hard to stuff the lead back. Lu Chang'an ignored her, and Zhou Dongdong ran over again, holding a lighter and saying to Shang Guandandan, Sister Dandan, let's take one and blow it up in the snow. What does it mean to explode snow? We first pile a lot of snow, and then put firecrackers in it, and the snow will explode like heavy snow, Zhou Dongdong said expectantly. Okay. Seeing how they were about to move, Lu Chang'an did not explain that these were not firecrackers and would not explode at all. He took one and threw it to them and let them play with it by themselves. Lu Chang'an dismantled several salutes and made a super big one, then went to the kitchen to help Zhou Shuling work. You go ahead and play, I'll just come. Zhou Shuling felt that there wasn't much left to do. Your skills are average. Can you fry this tiger skin pork belly? Isn't it just adding oil and frying? It needs to be boiled until tender first. You can't control the degree of this. Then you can poke holes in the skin, and this method of frying can easily splatter oil. You'd better just go ahead. Normally, you'd be screaming in the kitchen when frying pig's feet. Little screamer. Zhou Shuling felt a little guilty after hearing what Lu Chang'an said was complicated, but didn't he enjoy eating the salt and pepper pork knuckles that he usually made? Now let's talk about others. After cooking a sumptuous dinner in the evening, Lu Chang'an called up the two children who had been busy downstairs until now and failed to blow up the snow. He took a look at the window and felt that the snow in the entire community had been collected by them. Piled up downstairs, almost 2 stories high. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but frown. Zhou Dongdong definitely couldn't complete such a big project. Shang Guandandan usually didn't do anything, but he was full of energy when he caused damage. When the weather warms up and so much snow melts, it's like a flood passing through. While eating, Zhou Shuling brought 3 red envelopes and distributed them to Lu Chang'an, Shang Guandandan, and Zhou Dongdong. I have one too. Lu Chang'an smiled and took it. Usually older people give red envelopes to younger ones. I have $5. Zhou Dongdong opened the red envelope, took out the money, looked at it, put it back in, put the red envelope in his pocket, patted it, and went to the canteen again. I have a lot of money, giggle. Shang Guandandan took out the red RMB and counted it 3 times, and couldn't help but laugh. Recently, she had spent more money than she could, and she had saved some. Lu Chang'an's and Shang Guandandan's were both worth 1,000 yuan. Lu Chang'an also took out 3 red envelopes and distributed them to them. I have $5. Zhou Dongdong opened the red envelope, took out the money, looked at it, put it in again, put the red envelope in his pocket and patted it. He could go to the canteen again. Add 1. I have a lot. Shang Guandandan received it in his hand. He was about to say that he had a lot of money, but he felt that the weight was wrong. He frowned and opened it. It was the same as Zhou Dongdong, it was 5 yuan. Shang Guandandan stuffed the red envelope into her pocket without saying a word, then touched the thermos flask, took out a red envelope from her other pocket, took out the 100 yuan in it, and only he paid 5 yuan and went in, then handed it to Lu Chang'an. Thank you. Lu Chang'an took it with a smile. Shang Guandandan didn't want to pay attention to him. It's for you. In addition to giving Zhou Shuling a red envelope, Lu Chang'an also gave her a small glass bottle. What is this? Cosmetics. Zhou Shuling was unexpectedly happy. She didn't expect that she would receive more than just red envelopes and gifts. There was a clear liquid in a small glass bottle. For drinking, take 1 drop a day, mix it into milk or other tea, and drink it to prolong your life and beautify your skin, Lu Chang'an said. Zhou Shuling twisted her waist happily, touched the small bottle, looked at it, and pursed her lips. She didn't know why she felt sweet in her heart, but it wasn't entirely because Lu Chang'an said that this product could prolong life and beautify the face. Shang Guandandan gave Zhou Dongdong a bracelet to wear. Lu Chang'an saw that the material of the bracelet seemed to be similar to that of the Eternal Cabinet. He thought that Shang Guandandan could not be disadvantageous to Zhou Dongdong, so he didn't ask any more questions. What Shang Guandandan gave to Zhou Shuling was a jade seal. It looked like a very good mutton fat white jade. The jade color was pure and flawless, crystal clear and moist. The seal button was a relief of a creeping tiger. The image was ferocious and the body was lifelike, reflecting the extremely high level of carving and production. What do these 4 characters mean? I know 3 of them: Queen, Empress, Shan. I don't know the remaining one. Zhou Shuling showed Lu Chang'an and asked in confusion. It turned out to be a seal that could be called a seal. Lu Chang'an glanced at Shang Guandandan first. Shang Guandandan had already begun to have a serious meal with Zhou Dongdong. Lu Chang'an explained, "You overestimate yourself. You only know 2 words. That's not a mountain, it's a zigzag. The queen seal is a pretty good handicraft. It's worth at least several $1,000s. A small stone was so expensive, so Zhou Shuling didn't deliberately try to be polite. She could just buy Shang Guandandan more delicious food, cosmetics, and clothes in return. Zhou Shuling quickly went to collect the small stones worth several thousand yuan before returning to eat. Lu Chang'an remembered that so far, the only imperial seal of the Han Dynasty empresses surviving in the world is the Lu Pheasant one, and it is a national treasure that is prohibited from being exhibited abroad. This little old lady is really, forget it, let her eat as she pleases. Apart from attacking Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong, Lu Chang'an didn't talk much while eating. Well, when Shang Guandandan and Qin Yan'an get together again in the future to torment Lu Chang'an, he will tell Qin Yan'an that Shang Guandandan gave the Queen Seal to Zhou Shuling. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 697. After the New Year's Eve dinner, Lu Chang'an came downstairs to set off fireworks and salutes. At this time, the whole city was crackling, reflecting the half-darkness of the sky. If there were not the one after another explosions and the bright fireworks, just look at the sky above the city. The billowing smoke and the interplay of light and darkness felt like a fire spreading throughout the city. Lu Chang'an performed a spiral ascent to the sky while holding Zhou Dongdong in his arms. Because he had promised to teach Zhou Dongdong to fly before, he had to take her with him to satisfy her desire to be a small airplane. However, Lu Chang'an originally wanted to perform a wonderful flying stunt when falling. He then stretched out and landed, just like Iron Man, but he didn't expect that the gunpowder in the salute could not support such a difficult action. In addition, Zhou Dongdong was too excited to dance and disturbed Lu Chang'an, so the two of them crashed together. Yes. Zhou Shuling was startled when she saw the two of them plunging into the snowdrift that Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong had created today. She quickly ran over to take a look and found Zhou Dongdong lying in Lu Chang'an's arms, laughing non-stop. She couldn't help but complain. In fact, everyone did stupid things, but she didn't dare to say it loudly, because it was Lu Chang'an who always said she was stupid. If she said he was stupid, she would inevitably feel guilty, and he might even hit her on the head. Shang Guandandan hurried over and took pictures with her mobile phone of Lu Chang'an, who was embarrassed in the snowdrift. She wanted to send it to Moments first. Delete it for me. Lu Chang'an quickly climbed out of the snowdrift. You usually take pictures of Dongdong, so I want to take pictures of you too. Shang Guandandan refused and hid the phone first to prevent him from snatching it. Zhou Shuling covered her mouth and smiled. She often received those photos from Lu Chang'an. They were usually photos taken by Zhou Dongdong when he was acting stupid. The so-called tit for tat, everything comes down. So. Lu Chang'an snorted, turned around and grabbed Zhou Dongdong, who was digging a hole in the snow pit. He actually didn't care much about it. She just disliked this little old lady and always took pleasure in watching him get into trouble. I'm going to read a poem. Shang Guandandan cleared his throat. The sapphire case exploding snow, the east wind blows thousands of flowers and trees at night, and they blow down, and the stars are like rain. BMWs and carved cars fill the road with fragrance. The sound of phoenix flute moves, the light of the jade pot turned, and fish and dragons danced all night. Moths and golden threads of snow willows. Laughter filled with secret fragrance. The crowd searched for him thousands of times. Suddenly looking back, there was that man, rolling in the snowdrift. After Shang Guan read it in a sullen tone, he chuckled, and then decided to use this excellent arrangement of lyrics and the photos he just took to post on his WeChat Moments. Ignorant and incompetent Lu Chang'an had no choice but to retaliate. As for telling Shang Guandandan that this was a Yuengzi poem, she changed it and it didn't rhyme. It was meaningless to Shang Guandandan. After all, she changed it. The poems are completely devoid of the literate's attention to detail. Even a little less coquettish can be casually changed to very powerful. Shang Guandandan is very interested in online novels, but he has no desire to read traditional or serious literature nowadays. It is because of his background and study experience that he loves ancient classics. Lu Chang'an placed all the other fireworks and salutes, lit them one by one, and watched the gorgeous fireworks blooming above their heads. The four people raised their heads and watched. Although there is no blood relationship between them except the stupid mother and the stupid child, this life is the life of a family, simple and happy. Lu Chang'an raised his arms, gently hugged Shang Guandandan and Zhou Shuling, patted their shoulders, and watched them look up at him. The corners of Lu Chang'an's mouth slightly raised, and he pursed his lips to signal them to watch the fireworks. Shang Guandandan tilted his head and took Zhou Dongdong's little hand. Once you escape from the coffin, you will probably never want to get into it again. Unless, occasionally, when Lu Chang'an made her too angry, he would go in and be angry for a while. On New Year's Day, Lu Chang'an went to his girlfriend's house to pay New Year's greetings. There was already a sunrise this morning, and the snow all over the city was probably about to dissipate. Lu Chang'an put his hands in his pockets, looked up at the sky and streets, and walked slowly toward the west of the river. I have been walking in this direction for many years. From the high school affiliated to Zhangde University to Zhangde University, the route has not changed much. Every year I walk down it, I close my eyes and estimate how many steps I can take. It is still the same, often in winter. When I see the snow inside, I suddenly sigh, another 4 seasons has passed. Like ordinary people, Lu Chang'an just sighed and didn't feel much. The snow on the street was divided on both sides, revealing the wet black-gray cement road. Lu Chang'an walked onto the bridge and saw that the woods and bamboos far and near above the orange head were covered with snow, and the huge statues were covered with snow. But it did not damage his temperament and spirit at all. People in Shonan always have more feelings for him, especially the men, women, and children living in Junsha. One day when they look up at a loss, they find that he is watching them, and sometimes they feel a lot of courage. Of course, not everyone will get such incentives. Lu Chang'an smiled slightly, waved towards the statue, and continued walking across the long Zhezhu Bridge. The greenery of Hexi University town is very lush. The evergreen tree crowns are very beautiful with the white snow. There are many fewer students coming and going during the winter vacation. There are also students who stay in school for various reasons, lazily or hurriedly walking through the streets. However, the surrounding subway construction has also been suspended. Next year, several key undergraduate colleges in the university town will have their own subway station stores. Arriving at the Juyuan community, there were a lot less firecrackers and fireworks debris here. A familiar figure appeared in front of him, slender and full of curves. Lu Yuang was holding a hanging firecracker hesitantly, as if he was about to let it go. En Nuan came out of the door and saw that her mother did not dare to light firecrackers. She said carelessly that she was a good hand at setting off firecrackers, took the lighter, and then looked at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an still put his hands in his pockets and walked unsteadily, with a leisurely and contented look that was always unique to him. En Nuan casually threw the lighter to Lu Yuang and ran down. "Happy New Year, bring me the red envelope." En Nuan came to Lu Chang'an, showed a cute smile, held her hands together and stretched them out. "No." Lu Chang'an slapped her palm. "You came back from Antarctica and didn't come to see me. You just said you'd come back to pay New Year greetings on New Year's Day. I miss you at home every day, even for half the winter vacation. When we met, you didn't get a red envelope and you hit me." En Nuan felt aggrieved. He looked at Lu Chang'an with moist eyes as if he couldn't help it anymore. Lu Chang'an smiled, took her into his arms, and smelled the aroma of her hair. The familiar body fragrance penetrated his nostrils, and his whole body's emotions seemed to be activated immediately. En Nuan hummed, feeling even more aggrieved. He just hugged her without coaxing her and it was over? Just as he was thinking about it, Lu Chang'an held her cheek. His eyes were full of love and the emotion of reunion after a long separation, and he lowered his head and kissed her lips. The passionate kiss immediately made Nuan's body soften, and she hugged Lu Chang'an tightly regardless of it. She didn't want the red envelope, and she didn't want to coax her. She just wanted to be melted by his embrace and kiss. A snowball hit. Lu Chang'an then let go of Nuan and reached out to wipe away the snow residue on her cheeks and hair. Nuan turned his head angrily. Who else would throw snowballs at him in this situation, except Professor Lu, who doesn't fall in love and doesn't want to see others fall in love? Think I am air. We're acting in an idol drama, kissing in the snow. Would you like some music and TikTok for you? I give you a thumbs up. Buy the popular ones. After Lu Yuwang finished speaking, he took the firecracker in his hand and held it high. He's not out of heaven yet. You help our family set off firecrackers. We were supposed to set off firecrackers last night, but my mother and I are too timid to set off firecrackers, and Nuan didn't bother to pay attention to her mother who was mocking her. Her cheeks were red, and she said to Lu Chang'an sweetly, "You are so delicate, cute, and well-behaved." Lu Chang'an laughed. "Hate. I'm just delicate, cute, and well-behaved, so I went to set off firecrackers." Lu Chang'an didn't believe it. And Nuan hummed and hit Lu Chang'an. It was so good to have someone to hit her, and her hands were itchy for half the winter vacation. Lu Chang'an walked up to Lu Yuwang and said, "Professor Lu, Happy New Year." "Happy New Year." "Well, why do you smell? I can't tell you what it smells like." Come on, let's set off the firecrackers first. I'll give you a red envelope later. I've prepared it." Lu Yuwang sniffed. There was a smell that seemed to make her head dizzy for a moment, but she wasn't sure it was his smell that was responsible. It is a big deal to go out of heaven, and in some places it is also called opening the door to wealth. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 698. Going out to the sky is a traditional festival custom. Many children who were born in the city and have never returned to their parents' or grandparents' hometown for the new year often don't know this custom. In the past, this was the most important event in the spring of the year. Every household had to get up early, dress neatly even if there were no new clothes, and open the door together. This is to open the door to wealth. At the same time, setting off firecrackers usually has to be done by the mainstay of the family. The power to set off firecrackers is transferred from the father to the son, which is often accompanied by many emotions. After setting off the firecrackers, bowing to the sky, returning home to worship ancestors and gods, and then worshipping God, this is walking out of heaven. Nowadays, this custom has not been completely lost, but many families do not worship anything and just remember to set off firecrackers on the first day of the new year. Lu Yuwang is the kind of person who only remembers to set off firecrackers and is not interested in other things. Lu Chang'an turned out to be a firecracker. It was just a small firecracker with 3,000 rings. He lit it in his hand and listened to the sound while carrying it. The fine firecrackers crackled and confetti flew, dyeing the surrounding snow an ugly color. The firecrackers, when it burned to about 10 centimeters from the end, Lu Chang'an casually threw it next to Nuan. Nuan raised her foot and wanted to step on it, but when she saw Lu Chang'an smiling at her, she quickly let out a coo, like a frightened deer, shouting "Ya ya ya ya," raised her little fist and ran to hide behind Lu Chang'an. Scared look. "Do it, do it, do it," Lu Yuwang sighed 3 times in a row. He had never seen a girl act like this before. She always wanted to pretend to be cute, delicate, well-behaved, and pitiful in front of Lu Chang'an. Lu Yuwang was the one who was really afraid of firecrackers, that is, he was shaking his body, squeezing his eyes, covering his ears and taking a few steps back. Cute Lu Chang'an hugged Nuan's slender waist and hugged her into his arms. A girl is willing to work hard to be cute in front of you at any time. This kind of intention itself is super cute. And Nuan leaned in Lu Chang'an's arms, exposing half of her face, and winked proudly at Lu Yuwang, who was frightened by the firecrackers and pulled his ears. Lu Yuwang let go of her ears and hid in Nuan. She would get married as soon as possible. Out of sight, out of mind. And Nuan will be 20 next year and can get married. Unfortunately, the date of birth on Lu Chang'an's ID card cannot be changed. Wait 2 more years to get married. Looking at the two people's tired faces, Lu Yuwang really didn't believe that they would break up. He always felt that they would always be so tired. However, Lu Chang'an is not an ordinary person. This kind of person is unlikely to be loyal to the end. Such a profound understanding. There are so many cute girls in this world, Lu Yuwang said a little tentatively. Yes, there are many cute girls in this world. There are many girls who you will marvel at just by looking at them. How come there are such cute girls? Your heart will melt just by looking at her every move, but this, what does it have to do with me? Lu Chang'an shook his head and continued, in the eyes of onlookers, and Nuan may be considered pretentious, and only pretends to be cute, but when I think of her, she is trying hard every moment to make me think she is cute. To me, this is the cutest girl. She's really cute. And Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an tightly and closed her eyes sweetly. It's great to have a boyfriend who understands her feelings. Lu Yuwang was speechless for a moment, but he had to admit that what Lu Chang'an said made sense. After thinking about it, he couldn't resist him, so he raised his leg and gave Lu Chang'an and Nuan a kick before going into the house. Look at how angry you are at Professor Lu. And Nuan raised her little fist, hit Lu Chang'an, and added strongly, also, don't say I'm pretending to be cute, I'm really cute, do you admit it? Seeing her waving her fists and exposing her little tiger fangs to increase the threat, Lu Chang'an nodded. Such a cute threat of violence was so powerful that he could not resist. Lu Yuwang didn't prepare much New Year's goods at home. There was a plate of beautiful fruits on the dining room table in the living room. Lu Chang'an took a look and found that it was actually made of plastic. There were cherries, strawberries, blueberries, and mangroves on the coffee table in front of the sofa. Raspberries and black raspberries are both health-promoting fruits highly recommended by Lu Yuwang. Watching Lu Yuwang twisting her waist and walking around the living room, Lu Chang'an looked at her unscientific slender waist and breast-to-hip ratio, analyzing and thinking from a scientific perspective. Tesla's transformation of Lu Yuwang, could it be that he has transformed his figure? It must be more than that. What Tesla is talking about is the adaptation of the transformation to Professor Lu Jianxi. This adaptation means that if Lu Yuwang had met Professor Lu Jianxi, the two of them would be able to reproduce. Even if the child born cannot fully inherit Professor Lu Jianxi's abilities, at least he won't be as bad as Maya. Lu Chang'an didn't dwell too much on this issue. He would see if he could check Lu Yuwang's body again later. When Lu Yuwang appeared to be in a state of returning to youth, Lu Chang'an had checked her and did not check whether she was fit or not. With Professor Lu Jianxi thinking about it, he naturally didn't check it too carefully. In fact, Lu Chang'an doesn't really care whether he can find out the key to her compatibility with Professor Lu Jianxi. What does she have to do with Professor Lu Jianxi's son Lu Chang'an? For Lu Chang'an, it would be fine as long as Nuan adapts to him, so he turned to look at Nuan next to him, his eyes a little eager to move. Nuan was observing whether Lu Chang'an's angle of view could cover the most attractive points of Professor Liu's figure. When Lu Chang'an looked at her, he quickly raised his palm and slapped Lu Chang'an a few times to cover up his secret observation of being petty. Is red raspberry another name for raspberry? Nuan fed Lu Chang'an a red raspberry. Lu Chang'an held it between his lips, stretched out his tongue and pushed it a little, then moved his lips and teeth to take it into his mouth, and bit down gently. Nuan looked at him eating red raspberries and suddenly blushed. Everything you eat is so obscene. Really? It's not because you have a dirty mind that you think other people are dirty. Lu Chang'an shook his head in denial. My mother is going to participate in an event organized by the school to show condolences to old teachers and experts later. She won't be back until noon. And Nuan's eyes rolled around and her cheeks were slightly red. She didn't really mind Lu Chang'an saying that she was full of obscene thoughts, because for boyfriends, such girls are very cute. At this time Lu Yuwang changed clothes and walked out of her room. Red raspberries are actually very different from what we usually think of as raspberries. Red raspberry plants are very tall and can grow as tall as an anyuan, while raspberry plants are only as high as knees. Raspberry fruits are cone-shaped like strawberries. Raspberries are closer to round. Raspberries are sweeter and more delicious than raspberries. In terms of efficacy, raspberries are suitable for middle-aged and elderly people to maintain health, cardiovascular and cerebrovascular maintenance, and raspberries have better male health effects. Lu Chang'an casually changed the topic, chewed up the red raspberries in his mouth and swallowed them. Then you should eat strawberries. You won't gain weight if you eat strawberries. You don't need to eat raspberries now. Just leave the raspberries to Professor Lu. And Nuan took a big strawberry and stuffed it into Lu Chang'an's mouth. Lu Yuwang was no longer excited by An Nuan's provocation. He just slapped An Nuan on the forehead without any anger or irritability when passing by. I was knocked unconscious by her. An Nuan touched her forehead and leaned against Lu Chang'an in a daze. Although Professor Lu usually looked delicate and timid, every time she hit An Nuan felt like she was infinitely powerful. He has the power of a dragon and an elephant. Self-death. Lu Chang'an laughed. An Nuan did not dare to fight Professor Lu, but bullying Lu Chang'an was her greatest skill. Without hesitation, she hugged Lu Chang'an's neck and shook him, trying to push him down on the sofa to suppress him. Chang'an, I'm going out to pay New Year's greetings and I'll be back in a short while. You and An Nuan are going to buy some food and have dinner at home at noon. Lu Yuwang chose a woolen knitted scarf and stood at the door to change his shoes while saying to Lu Chang'an. Okay. Lu Chang'an nodded. Seeing Lu Yu looking out the door, An Nuan lowered her voice angrily. I still have to go shopping on New Year's Day, so I can only go to a big supermarket further away. This is how Professor Lu wants to reduce the time we spend alone together. What a wit. Lu Chang'an felt a little regretful. I'll eat 2 red raspberries and set off. Okay, An Nuan said delicately, but why did he say 2? He turned around and glanced at Lu Chang'an. After a while, Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went out to buy groceries. On New Year's Day, the two of them walked to the supermarket to buy groceries. It felt good. An Nuan thought that it felt like a married life, and her little face turned red. The contrast between the snow on the ground is particularly beautiful. There should be an update on January 1st, double the monthly pass, leave some for the rice noodle shop owner. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 699. The center of the street has basically been cleared of snow. The normal operation of urban life cannot be separated from the hard work of countless people in places that cannot be seen or ignored. Even on days like the first day of the new year, some people do not take vacations. There were also people who were not reunited. Today's people no longer have the concept of the most glorious labor, so they are stingy about gratitude and feel that everything is just what work should be done, just an exchange of equal value and a choice. Lu Chang'an remembered that when he was a lively and cute little animal in ancient times, he led a group of lively and cute little animals to work hard to eat. It was this kind of labor that gave him the opportunity to evolve, reproduce, and inherit. Since ancient times, labor is the most glorious. Everyone must have this basic concept, which is above the social morality based on capital exchange. I found that my mother is very calculating. She didn't buy any New Year's goods at all just to make a plan so that we wouldn't have much time to spend alone together today, An Nuan said, still a little indignantly. In the past, An Nuan didn't really mind being alone, because as long as she was with Lu Chang'an, it would be fine. There was someone next to her who could show affection. What a blessing. But it's different now. When An Nuan sees Lu Chang'an, she always wants to do something dirty to him. Of course, she just thinks about it. In fact, she is reserved and shy and won't do this at all. It's all forced by him. Is she that boring? Lu Chang'an felt that it shouldn't be the case. Professor Lu was still very open-minded and no longer guarded against An Nuan's close contact with Lu Chang'an. I don't know who she is. The last time you stayed here for the night, she didn't sleep well. She didn't give me a good look for several days, and she spoke in a weird way. An Nuan blushed angrily. One time I was learning to dance, and she had to pull me out to watch the documentary Animal World and zoom in on parts of the male and female sea turtles. Do current TVs have this function? Lu Chang'an exclaimed. I wonder if my family has it. You can ask Shang Guandandan about this. The little old lady who plays with the TV all day will definitely know. Is this the point? An Nuan punched Lu Chang'an, twisted around and stamped her feet. It's all your fault for throwing away the funny pillow that was bitten in her mouth. After saying that, he was still a little shy, and he quickly squeezed into Lu Chang'an's arms with a hum and let him give him a hug. I'll buy you a bunch of funny pillows, some for biting, some for leaning on, some for hugging, and some for cushioning. Lu Chang'an understood what she meant. It turned out that she wanted him to buy pillows as a New Year gift. I hate it, you make me a pillow to bite, to lean on, to hold, to cushion. And Nuan was a little dissatisfied with the status quo. Many times when she and her mother were sitting on the sofa watching TV together, they would I can only play with that pillow. If Lu Chang'an was here at that time, she could use him as a pillow, and Professor Lu would also be very happy, because An Nuan would throw her pillow to Professor Lu, so that Professor Lu would have two pillows. Anything is fine. Lu Chang'an has no objection at all. If you want to play with others, you will be played by others. This sentence is said by Confucius. Because they had already made out at home, it was impossible to go back early and make out again. After all, Professor Lu would be back at any time, so the two of them were walking slowly and leisurely now. And Nuan kind of likes this feeling. She used to see Lu Chang'an's light steps and elegant and free steps. Now she finally walks out with a similar pace to him. When others see it, they must say what a perfect match for the beautiful girl and him. What a beautiful man. Your mother may not be accustomed to being a traditional parent, and she has not thought about preparing for the New Year's goods at all. Are you going to go to your grandparents' house to celebrate the New Year in 2 days? Lu Chang'an asked. Yes, she has always felt that she is a little girl who has not yet left the court. And Nuan nodded, deeply convinced of this. When she returned to her grandparents' house, her mother still regarded her as the favored daughter of the family. The point is, you will go to my grandparents' house to celebrate the New Year in 2 days. I will go to Jinling tomorrow to celebrate the New Year. How about I stay at your house tonight? Lu Chang'an asked with great respect. You can't make your own decisions, right? Then, well, at most Professor Lu will show me Animal World again, I'll just bear with it. And Nuan was so excited that she forgot to be reserved. Interesting. It's funny how big you are. I'm going to hit you. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan came to the boutique supermarket that was also open on the first day of the Lunar New Year. In fact, there are still many fewer families who actually prepare a lot of New Year's goods. With the construction of material civilization, certain achievements have been made, and the number of places open 24x365 has increased. For every meal everyone ate fresh vegetables, and many people came to buy vegetables to entertain relatives and friends on New Year's Day. There are a lot of people pushing shopping carts in the supermarket. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan are picking and choosing. Although An Nuan is certainly not as experienced as Lu Chang'an in this area, every time the ingredients she chooses are rejected by Lu Chang'an, she is still very happy. For girls, it is always wonderful to experience life at home with their boyfriend. Lu Chang'an, An Nuan. The two of them turned back together and saw Huang Shan, the head teacher of the high school, appearing in the supermarket with his wife and children at home, and greeted them both. Happy New Year. Teacher, Happy New Year. Master, Happy New Year. Huang Shan was a little happy to see the two of them, and introduced to his child, these two brothers and sisters are among the top 50 in the province in the college entrance examination. They are role models for you to learn from. Do you understand? Haiyan Nuan waved cutely and greeted the children. Huang Shan and Lu Yuwang were classmates, but Lu Yuwang's child was in his first year of college, and Huang Shan's child didn't know what grade he was in. The little girl is so pretty, and the boy is handsome too, Huang Shan's wife praised with some envy. Her child would either have good grades in the future or find such a beautiful girlfriend. If he could achieve either of these, he would be thankful to God. Teacher, the classmates in our class have made an appointment for a day when everyone will be together to wish you a happy new year, and Nuan held hands and looked at Huang Shan expectantly. Okay, you're welcome at any time, Huang Shan said happily. Huang Shan chatted with Lu Chang'an for a few more words, and then went shopping separately. Teacher Huang seems to want to ask you if you are still as messy in college as you were in high school, but he just said that you are a role model. I guess it is not good to ask more, lest the children learn bad things, and Nuan said with a smile. He told me before, Lu Chang'an, no matter how good you are in the exam, you will always be a negative example to me, Lu Chang'an laughed. That's right, I'm trying to save face for you during the big day today, and Nuan snorted, leaving early, getting into fights, getting into trouble, going to class, sleeping and reading miscellaneous books. What are you missing? The point is, I also included the person who has been number one in the attached high school for many years. The school beauty was kidnapped. Teacher Huang is indeed very good. Of course Lu Chang'an had no objections to Huang Shan, but he was a little confused. How could I have kidnapped the number one school beauty of the attached high school for many years? And Nuan's eyes widened. She said such words, but he didn't cooperate. I remember that your mother also graduated from the affiliated high school. If you want to talk about the number one school beauty in many years, well, hey, don't, when I say the number one school beauty in many years, it has to be my Nuan. It's Nuan. That's right. I hate you. You're sleeping on the sofa tonight. Won't you leave the door open for me? Go daydreaming. You are a dream. Obscene. The two of them were playing around and quickly bought the food for today's lunch and dinner. And Nuan also bought 2 sugar popsicles, each of them held one in his mouth, licked and nibbled them and went home. The monthly votes exceeded 2,000 on January 1st. On January 2nd, and Nuan, Bai Hui, and Professor Lu were updated with extra chapters, but they couldn't arrive anyway. Readers who are not in the V group don't need to worry, because if you write a side story, you can only post it to the V group. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 700. Lu Chang'an and Nuan returned home and found that Lu Yuwang had come back first. She took off her coat and changed into a red home gown and black wide-leg pants. She was light and walked out of the house in the thick snow in the cold winter. When I came in, it was quite pleasing to see such a beauty. So early, and Nuan took a thin coat and put it on Lu Yuwang to prevent Professor Lu from catching a cold by showing off her curvaceous curves. Forget it, I came to the home of an old professor to pay New Year greetings. Somehow the old professor heard that he had not planned to come to his place. He remembered that the dean was in the same office as him and never called him for dinner, so he called the dean. Now Lu Yuwang had nothing to do with him, and it was a bit funny when he thought about it. You're already old, fortunately nothing happened. The old professor took some medicine and lay down. The dean couldn't keep it off his face. We all of course people dispersed. You're still fighting at your age, and Nuan couldn't help but laugh. This is normal. If you miss someone at a dinner party without notifying them, it is no different from a life or death feud. Lu Chang'an nodded with deep understanding. How can it be as serious as you said? And Nuan finally remembered. Now she and Bai Hui are good friends, but they didn't deal with each other in high school, and there was never a time when there was a dinner party without notifying each other. For example, even though she didn't go to the KTV event where Lu Chang'an confessed her love to her, Bai Hui informed her at the beginning. There was also the matter of Lu Chang'an sacrificing himself to save others in Yangui Lake. She didn't go to that party just because she and her mother were going to Sanya. There was no intention to omit an Nuan without notifying her. It's serious. For example, in the spring of the second year of Duke Xian, the son of Zhengui was encouraged by the Chu state to attack the Song state. The Song state sent Hua Yuan to resist, but Hua Yuan killed the sheep and invited his soldiers and servants to eat them. After finishing the meal, he missed his driver. When the battle came, when they got to Kampa, the driver said to Hua Yuan, "If you don't treat me to a sheep, I'll treat you to a knife." He drove the cart and rushed to the enemy camp on the opposite side. Went there, Hua Yuan was captured alive, and the Song army was defeated. Lu Yuang said with a smile, "The dean must not know this story." Yes, many students and teachers who can receive education now have not even read Zhou Xuan, so what kind of students and teachers are they? Lu Chang'an nodded and gave an example. This dean must also. I haven't even read Zhou Xuan, and I don't know the story of index finger movement and encroachment. Tell me, and Nuan must have never read Zhou Xuan. Lu Yuang looked at Lu Chang'an with admiration. Chatting with Lu Chang'an was just comfortable. They could both quote classics and allusions, and they didn't need to explain some classic historical facts. Unlike chatting with an Nuan and telling some interesting stories, she would just widen her eyes and shake her head back and forth, like a fool. Once Zheng Linggong got a very big turtle. The big turtles at that time were not as big and meaty as those farmed now. Young Master Song and the Zi family were also about to go to see Lord Linggong. Young Master Song's index finger suddenly moved on its own. When he got up, he told Zijia that if his index finger moved, there must be something delicious. When Lu Chang'an said this, he thought of Zhou Dongdong. This stupid kid also had similar abilities. This is the story of the big index finger. I know this story even though I haven't read Zhou Xuan, and Nuan said disdainfully, glancing back and forth. Lu Chang'an and Professor Lu had unknowingly harmonized their channels. After the two of them met Linggong, they saw Linggong's chef making soft-shelled turtles. Song was very proud, and the Zi family told Linggong about the twitching of their index fingers. Linggong was also a bit mean, so he invited everyone to eat together. But they refused to give it to young Master Song to eat. Young Master Song was very angry. He dipped his fingers into the turtle pot and dipped some soup into it, tasted it, and then left. This is tampering. Lu Chang'an spread his hands and said, "It's for the monarch. Is the tripod something you can get your hands on casually?" In short, this summer, young Master Song killed Duke Ling. Master Song will kill Duke Lin, of course. It's not just because of a turtle, but it does have a lot to do with it. Lu Yuang looked at An Nuan with a soft voice. It's just about you hiding quietly and using facial cream. No, if you use it for me, the consequences will be similar. You can think about it yourself. Actually, you don't need to use that cream. It's not of much use to you now. Lu Chang'an advised An Nuan, as he thought that An Nuan still had unused cream and he didn't need to make it specially for Lu Yuang. Okay. And Nuan thought for a moment, her cheeks reddening, because we are going to Grandpa's house tomorrow, and Lu Chang'an has something to do, so we won't see each other for a few days. Lu Chang'an will sleep in the study tonight, so you are not allowed to chatter. Show me Animal World again, and I will give you the facial cream. No problem, Lu Yuang said immediately. There are not many things in this world that are more important than that precious facial cream. As long as An Nuan is willing to give it away, at most he will wear noise-cancelling headphones to sleep tonight. This little girl loves to put on airs, and Lu Chang'an is sleeping in the study tonight. Nowadays, when young people fall in love, it is not like a firewood. Go cookin', Nuan said softly, pushing Lu Chang'an with a blushing face, and then went back to the room to get Lu Yuwang's facial cream. Lu Yuwang quickly followed Nuan. Nuan took out the facial cream and handed it to Lu Yuwang, who held it preciously in his hand. Don't eat it secretly again, Nuan warned. She was happy for her mother to become younger, but it would be best after Nuan and Lu Chang'an have become a real person and get married, or Professor Lu has a partner and is ready to fall in love. I don't know how, Lu Yuwang said in a tone that she had never eaten secretly before and was wronged by Nuan, and she was a little confused. Why don't you need it now? Lu Chang'an said that my current physical condition is very good. I should look like the most beautiful and lovely girl at all times. There is not much room for me to be more beautiful and lovely, Nuan said proudly. This is also good. After all, only the cutest and most beautiful girl in the world deserves her most precious boyfriend. Then why did you need it before but don't need it now? In order to explore the secret, Lu Yuwang didn't bother to attack Nuan's boastfulness and narcissism. Lu Yuwang didn't know if Nuan had room for advancement in a more beautiful and lovely way, but there should be no room for increasing the thickness of this face. Of course the most beautiful and cutest ones are not needed. It would be a waste to use them again, Nuan said matter-of-factly. I mean, what made you become the most beautiful and cutest? Lu Yuwang suppressed the goosebumps and agreed with Nuan. There must be a reason, right? Nuan originally wanted her mother to ask Lu Chang'an, but she felt that she couldn't create a topic for them to chat, so she thought hard for a while and said a little shyly, didn't we watch Stephen Chow's The Deer and the Cauldron, the Dragon Sect a few days ago? In it, Wei Xiaobao gained kung fu because he had a relationship with the saint of the dragon cult. He has superpowers, maybe he had a relationship with him, and his superpower can transform my body. Nonsense, that's a movie. It's nonsense and has no scientific basis at all. Lu Yuwang felt that he should ask Lu Chang'an directly. Nuan, this girl, would have random thoughts and add drama to her love story. He has superpowers. Is there any scientific basis for this? Doesn't it seem more ridiculous to others? Think about it, wouldn't such a wonderful facial cream seem ridiculous to others? Nuan said disapprovingly. My boyfriend is the most awesome. That's right. Lu Yuwang nodded and prepared to walk out of the room. Nuan suddenly thought of something, and quickly pulled Lu Yuwang, and said a little nervously and worriedly, I will ask clearly about this matter. Before I ask clearly, you are not allowed to let him use superpowers to help you secretly. You should modify your body, because maybe it is really necessary. Lu Yuwang struck her with one slap, and Nuan let out a cry of pain. The cutest and most beautiful girl in the world was brutally beaten on the first day of the new year. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 701. After being beaten by Lu Yuwang, Nuan wiped her eyes miserably and went to the kitchen to show off to Lu Chang'an. A girl in love can be beaten and shed tears, but she must act coquettishly at this time. Then the beating and tears will not be in vain, and it will all be worth it. Professor Lu, hit me, Nuan ran into the kitchen, hummed and threw herself into Lu Chang'an's arms, secretly watching his expression. At this time, the girl's injustice depends on her boyfriend's attitude. The more he is consoling her conscientiously will make her feel more wronged, require more time to act coquettishly, and listen to more sweet words to coax her. Mostly looking for a beating, Lu Chang'an still knew his girlfriend very well. The number of times she had been beaten since she was a child was incalculable, but it was estimated that there were very few times when Lu Yuwang had nothing to do with her children. I don't like you anymore, Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an in shock. He was now partial to Professor Lu. What a coincidence, I don't like you anymore. Lu Chang'an kissed her cheek. She felt the fragrance was smooth and very comfortable, so he kissed both sides to be fair. You don't like me, and you still kiss me, and Nuan protested, covering her cheek. Men are so realistic and rational. It's one thing whether they like her or not. It's another thing if she can't resist the temptation of a beautiful girl. Lu Chang'an said regretfully, I am also a man. You sometimes speak such nice sweet words, but why can you speak so calmly about some quotes about scumbag men and those quotes about straight men? And Nuan looked at the man who did not adhere to the character of a good boyfriend at all in confusion. Friend. A man who talks sweet words to you all the time, never exposes his flaws in front of you, and always makes you feel that he is deeply affectionate, either has ulterior motives or is just a fool. Lu Chang'an explained, besides, who makes you so cute, always make people unable to help teasing you. Lu Chang'an's explanation was very objective and well-founded. And Nuan pursed her lips and snorted, then wanted to lean into Lu Chang'an's arms again, but her eyes caught sight of a pile of flesh-red ingredients soaked in the basin, and she couldn't help but be startled. He quickly took 2 steps back and stared at Lu Chang'an's lower body, and said in disbelief, what is this, a pig, a dog, or a cow or sheep? Where are you thinking? Didn't we buy dried sea sausage in the supermarket? It swells up after being soaked in hot water for a while, and it looks like this. Lu Chang'an couldn't help laughing. The little girl's mind was dirty all day long. Ugh, it looks so disgusting. I thought geoduck was disgusting enough, but it turns out it looks even more disgusting. And Nuan leaned back into Lu Chang'an's arms again, her eyes rolling, thinking that Lu Chang'an was don't you want to use form to make up for form? Hey, you can't express this idea, lest it stimulate the man's pride and make him try his best to prove himself to her. How can you say that? As long as it is delicious, there is no problem of nausea. It is a sea cucumber with its fur coat taken off. It is rich in nutritional value, rich in amino acids, and can beautify the skin. Lu Chang'an reached out and took one out. You touch it, it's soft and cute. No. I'm going out. And Nuan waved her hand. This thing was actually called cute in his mouth. This made Nuan couldn't help but wonder what he meant when he usually praised her for being cute. And Nuan went to the bathroom. Although she didn't touch the sea intestines at all, she still felt that she needed to wash her hands and eyes. Lu Yuwang also came to the kitchen to take a look. She was a little hungry, so she wanted to know what to eat for lunch today. She glanced at the sea intestines in the basin, her cheeks were slightly red, and she left without saying a word, feeling a little gloating in her heart. Lu Chang'an must be taking this to replenish his body, as that stupid girl suffered it at night. Lu Chang'an looked at Lu Yuwang's movements and expressions, and shook his head gently. This mother also likes to have random thoughts. Sea sausage is a common raw material in Shandong cuisine. It is rarely eaten here in southern Hunan, so it is inevitably rare and strange. It can not only be stir-fried and stewed, but also used to make dumplings and steamed buns. The people in Shandong named it sea chicken because of its shape. After lunch, Nuan sat on the sofa and watched TV. She used Lu Chang'an as a cushion with satisfaction. She hugged him for a while, leaned against him for a while, sat on him for a while, and lay on his lap for a while. Lu Yuwang was very angry. Why is this girl so clingy? It's boring to look at. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Professor Ling and Hans Hizzi to come back. The custom of some people here is to go back to their parents' house on the first day of the new year. Professor Ling's parents' family is near the Juyuan community. She is always diligent and walks around hard, so she ate it for lunch. Came back after a meal. Come, let's play mahjong until tomorrow morning. Lu Yuwang greeted Professor Ling enthusiastically. Yours Hizzy must have a lot of lucky money, just give some to me. How can this be like this? I won't fight with you. I saved it for traveling. Hans Hizzy took out a red envelope, waved it in a showy way and then took it back. No, you have to play, exactly 4 of us, Lu Yuwang demanded strongly, otherwise, we can't play mahjong. Aren't these 5 people? Hans Hizi pushed Lu Chang'an and said to him, don't you count yourself as a human being? You're not a human being, and Nuan immediately counterattacked. But, you know how to protect the calf. He's not a kid. What's wrong? Just get 4 of us. Professor Ling sat down next to Lu Chang'an and looked at the extremely outstanding prospective son-in-law of his good sister's family. He was really enviable. And Nuan and Lu Chang'an can't go up together. If she goes up, she will definitely give Lu Chang'an a break and he won't be able to fight. Lu Yuwang said very firmly. Am I such a person? And Nuan looked around angrily, looking for support. As a result, she found that except for her boyfriend, everyone else nodded, and Professor Ling and Hans Hizi even showed expressions of "Oh, why didn't you think of that just now? We are a husband and wife team." Lu Chang'an hugged his lovely girlfriend's soft shoulders. Kill everyone and win all the money they spend on clothes. Let them lose their pants. And Nuan felt rejected and very angry. Lu Chang'an smiled, and Nuan gave Professor Ling a slap in the face. Even though Hans Hizi said she wanted to save money for traveling, she still came on stage. After all, she was still very confident when it came to playing cards. After playing cards all afternoon, Lu Chang'an won more than 7,000 yuan at most. And Nuan felt very happy to share the 1,000 yuan. But when it was time to eat, Lu Chang'an lost the remaining 6,000 yuan again, and then went to prepare dinner. Professor Ling and Hans Hizi were eating here in the evening. And Nuan came on the bench nervously. As long as he didn't lose during the time he was on the field, it would be fine. After dinner, Lu Chang'an would come on the field again. He must be allowed to regain his strength and defeat the other 3 women. Let them lose everything. The card game didn't end until 10:30 in the evening. Although Professor Lu shouted to play until tomorrow morning, playing cards all night like this would do too much harm to his beauty. He didn't sleep after 11 o'clock, and he felt that his skin and body were being damaged. The fear of being damaged made it difficult for her to continue playing cards calmly. In the end, Lu Chang'an won more than 4,000, Hans Hizi only lost more than 300, Professor Ling lost about 1,000, and Lu Yuwang lost the rest. Lu Chang'an gave all the money to Nuan, which made Nuan very happy. Lu Yuwang was a little unhappy. Lu Chang'an didn't take her as his prospective mother-in-law seriously at all. How could a prospective son-in-law dare to win when he came to play cards at his house? But considering that she got a whole bottle of facial cream today, she didn't care. As long as he gave her back the cream in the future, it didn't matter if she lost all her savings to him. It's night, put on noise-cancelling headphones and go to bed. I recommend Rong Zirong's new book My Senior Sister Can Magic. There is a building activity in the book review area. The maximum reward is 10,000 starting coins. The winning rate is very high. You can participate. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 702. In the morning, Lu Chang'an opened his eyes. The windows inlaid with glass on the 9-panel wooden frame were filled with condensation. The room was warm and filled with warm fragrance. Lu Chang'an took a deep breath and felt as comfortable as immersed in velvet. A soft and comfortable feeling filled the whole body, and the arms felt a little weight-bearing. Glancing sideways, Nuan was resting on his arm. Her long black hair was scattered on the white pillow and quilt. Her beautiful face was as delicate as porcelain, and her thick and straight eyelashes were intertwined. She looked like she was sleeping soundly. Still, with the refreshing comfort after exhaustion, it was obvious that she enjoyed sleeping like this in winter as much as Lu Chang'an did. For lovers, it is undoubtedly a very sweet sleeping position for a girl to rest on the man's shoulder and hug her to sleep, but in fact 99% of men cannot let their shoulders bear the woman's head all-night pressure. An adult's head weighs about 10 pounds, generally accounting for 7 to 8% of an adult's body weight. The fatter the person, the bigger and heavier the head. Of course, this excess mass is not due to a developed brain, but because there is more meat on the face. It is conceivable that it is not a comfortable and easy thing to bear such weight and pressure on the arm for a whole night. But he was Lu Chang'an, so he just tilted his head and looked at An Nuan quietly. She was so beautiful, or else he should rely on his qualifications to call her the most beautiful girl since the birth of mankind. I just remembered that I once swore to Qinyan that Yesijin was the most beautiful woman in history, but it should be a natural phenomenon that everyone can understand when men change their minds. Forget it, Lu Chang'an thought for a while and decided to rank An Nuan and Yesijin as the most beautiful girls since the birth of mankind. Anyway, this is not a beauty pageant in front of the public of all mankind, and it does not require anyone's approval. He is just comparing it casually. Yeah. An Nuan opened her eyes and saw Lu Chang'an. She instinctively snorted coquettishly, then stretched out her hands to wrap around Lu Chang'an's neck. After moving comfortably in the bed, An Nuan finally woke up. What time is it? After wiping her eyes, An Nuan felt that the light outside the window was a little bright. She quickly reached over her head and grabbed it on the bedside table. She turned around and moved her body again, and finally got the phone. It's 7 o'clock, and Nuan squinted her eyes to adapt to the brightness of the phone screen. She was suddenly surprised and couldn't help but sit up. The quilt slipped and I quickly grabbed it. At this point, my mother has already gotten up. She will definitely go to the study to take a look. Then she will know that you spent the night in my room, and Nuan's cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Thinking that it was too late to regret now, even if she drove Lu Chang'an away, An Nuan could not remedy the situation. An Nuan had no choice but to grab the quilt, retracted into the bed, and pulled the edge of the quilt little by little to block her face, leaving only her eyes exposed. Glanced at Lu Chang'an shyly, then bent over and curled up, hiding under the quilt. In that case, let's go for a run. Lu Chang'an sat up and looked at the window. Why be greedy for a warm bed in the cold winter? It's a good time to exercise your will and body. Lu Yuang got up very early. After discussing with An Nuan yesterday about facial cream and An Nuan no longer needing facial cream, she had some understanding of her own. Wolfberry, I have very good wolfberry at home. The first thing Lu Yuang thought of was wolfberry. Wolfberry is a good thing for both men and women. Although when talking about wolfberry now, it reminds people of middle-aged people. Lu Yuang was a little repelled, but she couldn't resist the nourishment of wolfberry for women. She kept a large glass bottle of wolfberry at home, the kind of large glass bottle commonly used in every household to brew medicinal wine. Make a wolfberry seafood porridge, add some sea cucumbers. It's too late to soak the dried sea cucumbers. It's almost the same if you put some non-soaked sea cucumbers, add some abalone, cook it in one pot. An Nuan, and I can eat it too. Lu Yuang opened WeChat again and looked at an article he had collected about restraint in various foods. He found that these foods could be eaten together, so he decided to add some red dates to the mix. After working all morning, Lu Yuang saw Lu Chang'an coming out of An Yuan's room at 8 o'clock. Lu Yuang was not surprised. Last night, when An Nuan was pretending to be in the study, spreading the sheets and quilts neatly, and pulling the corners of the quilt covers to align them with the edge of the bed, Lu Yuang guessed that the real scene was what it looked like now. Lu Yuang was too embarrassed to say anything to Lu Chang'an, but she decided to wait until Lu Chang'an left before teasing An Nuan. An Nuan just said that she was not allowed to show her the spring of male and female sea turtles, but she did not say that Lu Yuang was not allowed to laugh at her. Raise a child. When she was little, she would play with it. When she gets a little older, she becomes a moving doll. When she grows up, she becomes a sandbag. Now at this age, she is too independent, so she has to use it to ridicule and vent her emotions. The negative emotions are gone, but they are still somewhat useful. Morning. Lu Chang'an nodded towards Lu Yuang. Morning. Lu Yuang had no choice but to respond. This guy was so calm and walked out of someone else's daughter's room early in the morning. He acted as if nothing had happened. he was probably even thicker skinned than An Nuan, which was quite fitting. "What do you want to eat?" Lu Chang'an asked. "You want to go to Grandma An Nuan's house early?" "I'll make something simple. I've already made it. Let's have porridge with some pickles this morning." Lu Yuwang pointed to the kitchen. Thank you for your hard work," Lu Chang'an said sincerely, and asked with concern, "Have you slept well recently?" Lu Yuwang's pink face was dizzy and she glared at Lu Chang'an. "I'm wearing noise-cancelling headphones." Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh. "As a liberal arts professor, your understanding is a bit poor." "What did you say?" Lu Yuwang raised her hand and hit him. She didn't care whether what he wanted to say made sense or not. In short, if he said something bad about her, he would hit him first. If I said whether you slept well last night, it would inevitably be inappropriate. But what I am talking about is recently. The scope of the inquiry is different, and the meaning is of course different. I am referring to the fact that you used to be frightened and fainted, and it was often difficult to fall asleep. Have nightmares been completely eliminated? Lu Chang'an was completely concerned. "Where did you want to go?" "It's not bad. That happened a long time ago. Of course everything is fine now, and I have been eating some food to help sleep and brain. This person not only needs to have young skin, but also needs to have a young mind, and his brain must also stay active. I made seafood porridge with wolfberry and red dates this morning. The name may not sound delicious, but it is rich in nutrients. Yeah, go wash your face, brush your teeth, and get ready for breakfast. Aren't you going to take the high-speed rail too?" "Okay, all right." After Lu Chang'an went to wash his face and brush his teeth, An Nuan finally came out of the room with a blushing face and went to take a shower. Her boyfriend was so immoral. After breakfast, Lu Chang'an left An Nuan's house and prepared to go to Jinling. The sun came out today and he felt the wetness and coldness of the melting snow early in the morning. Winter is always bitter for people in the south. They always hope that it will snow, but the snow scene does not last long. Looking at the overwhelming snow, I regret that the scene will disappear in a day or two. The snow will soon melt and everything will change. It's very moist, and my hands and feet feel cold and damp when I look at it. It's uncomfortable." Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan went together. Qin Yinan originally wanted to go there years ago, but Qin Peng specially asked her to go with Lu Chang'an, so Qin Yinan was delayed for 2 days. Qin Peng's arrangement makes sense. Given his status, there are always groups of people coming to pay New Year's greetings before and after New Year's greetings. Like the home of a fellow villager who helped him conceal his identity during the war or stayed in the home while he was recuperating. Although the fellow villager has passed away, he asked Qin Peng to take care of the children at home. Such kindness would not lead to the death of the fellow villager, and Qin Peng would not care. Regardless, he will not directly arrange for the descendants of the fellow villagers, but just give them a chance to meet during the new year. There are also relatives, friends, and descendants of old comrades and subordinates. Many of them were on the battlefield with Qin Peng and died in front of him. They died for various reasons. Qin Peng could often recall their appearance as soon as he closed his eyes. There are various situations when they are dying. In Jinling itself, people from the units and places where he worked had to deal with their descendants and their families. Qin Peng could not meet many of them in person, but he had no time to spare. Lu Chang'an was waiting at the city gate-shaped ticket office at the foot of Lushan Mountain. After a while, Qin Yinan's champagne-colored sports car drove slowly and stopped in front of Lu Chang'an. "I'm envious." Lu Chang'an had just gotten into the car. Qin Yinan looked ahead and said lightly. "What are you envious of?" Lu Chang'an looked at Qin Yinan. Today, Qin Yinan, who smells sour all over her body, is wearing a short silver-white cheongsam. The color is very festive. Roses with light blue and silver threads are blooming. There are warm soft velvet on the edges of the sleeves and collar. For matching in this outfit, she also wore her hair in a classical style bun, her bangs were neatly cut, and two crescent-like strands of hair hung in front of her face. She did not look like a mature working woman, but she had a strong sense of girliness. Lover spends the full moon night, I wish you this day every year, oh, there is a word that is a verb in February. Chinyanan's cheeks bloomed with the pink of March, and she didn't know how he just blurted out such terrible words, but he couldn't take them back. Others say that pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years. It's only after giving birth that your brain becomes weak. Why are you brainless now? Why are you talking to me? Lu Chang'an knocked on Chinyanan's head. This little girl is not to be outdone when she is jealous. She is also a biology major. I recommend the new book Walking in the Heavens by an old author. It is a semi-original copy and has unlimited behind-the-scenes streaming. It is very interesting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 703. The birth of vinegar is related to fermentation. Regarding the principle of fermentation, of course it is biological action. Anyuan is a leader in the field of biological professional vinegar production. Chinyanan obviously has a tendency to become more and more specialized in this field. But he didn't expect that he would hit and scold him after he muttered a few words. Chinyanan felt a little aggrieved and stopped saying anything. Isn't it reasonable for people to complain? He came over from Orange Garden Community early in the morning and naturally stayed at An Nuan's house last night. In this case, isn't it natural for people to be a little jealous? Originally, when celebrating New Year's Day, I still thought that the Gregorian New Year was not considered a Chinese New Year, but now that the Lunar New Year has passed, it is inevitable to face the cruel reality of being 1 year older. She is already 26 this year. Even though Yesijin's current age doesn't count, after all, she is Chinyanan now, a 26-year-old old girl. The memory and process of Yesijin and his assassination by Sumei remained in my mind, but after all, it was a bit distant and strange, just like watching a beautiful movie, and it was still somewhat different from personal experience. On the first night of the Lunar New Year, a woman of this age should spend it with her boyfriend or husband at her own home or his home. Where is Chinyanan? I changed into various cheongsams, pajamas, a little bit, really just a little bit of fun home clothes, stockings, short socks, garters, etc., and took a lot of selfies. They all look pretty. Aren't girls nowadays quite bold in taking selfies? I originally wanted to send it out for someone to appreciate, but I was a little worried that the waves in the Juyuan community would directly hit the top of Lushan Mountain. Chinyanan was not afraid of other people's jealousy, but when she thought about Lu Chang'an being pushed by An Nuan to teach her a lesson, she decided to forget it. She could not offend her uncle and elder brother if she could offend that little jealous person. And when she has been taught a lesson, An Nuan will feel that she can control Chinyanan. It will be strange if the jealous little man doesn't be arrogant when he meets her again. How shameless does Chinyanan have to be? Between women, besides competing for men, they also compete for face. Now that this man is in An Nuan's hands, he can no longer lose face. Actually, there is a certain scientific basis for the fact that pregnancy lasts for 3 years. I did relevant research back then. During pregnancy, the body of pregnant women is affected by various hormones, resulting in reduced brain volume and memory loss. At the same time, the fetus absorbs some of the pregnant woman's own essence and blood. It is impossible to recover quickly after delivery, resulting in a decrease in maternal energy, memory loss, inability to concentrate, and looking stupid after Lu Chang'an finished speaking. In order to prevent being criticized, he added, "This is sacrifice, great mother. Then according to you, I have been pregnant for so many years. How stupid must I be? My IQ must be negative," Chinyanan said angrily. Lu Chang'an smiled. Seeing that he didn't speak, Qin Yan'an turned to glance at him, saw that he was smiling, and knew that what he meant was that her IQ was indeed negative. Qin Yan'an angrily stepped on the brakes, let go of the steering wheel, beat his shoulders with both hands, and stared at him angrily. She was very strong, much more powerful than An Nuan's frail girlfriend. Lu Chang'an didn't feel any pain at all, but he felt that she would hit her against the car window. He quickly grabbed her hands, and it seemed that she was indeed hit. The fire is powerful. You're smart, you're witty, you're brave. Okay, Lu Chang'an shook his head. The little girl's temper was really getting better day by day. Do you think I'm Zhou Dongdong? Qin Yan'an struggled and twitched his hands. He actually really let go. Aren't men usually holding her hands tightly at this time? Zhou Dongdong is not as smart as you, not as witty as you, and not as brave as you. Lu Chang'an is very good at speaking according to people's wishes. Qin Yan'an started the car again, feeling a little depressed. She always felt that this was not a good thing. She was smarter, resourceful, and braver than Zhou Dongdong. Is this a compliment? Unless she was as cute as Zhou Dongdong, that would be about the same. Thinking of Zhou Dongdong running around so chubbily, Qin Yan'an couldn't help but burst into laughter again. Lu Chang'an looked at her. This woman's mood and thoughts were just like the weather in the tropics. They were unpredictable. She would get angry and hit people, then laugh, and maybe hang herself. Let me ask you something serious. What do you think of An Nuan and Yesijin? I mean Yesijin, not me. Have you ever compared them? Qin Yan'an took advantage of her hand to brush the hair around her ears to cover her warm ears. Compare to what? Lu Chang'an thought of his comparison that morning about who was the most beautiful girl in human history in his eyes. It's just, I heard that there are some girls who are pure on the surface, but they are very good at catering to men. We usually call them fox girls. After all, Yesijin is very pure on the outside, but in some aspects she doesn't know how to cater to men. She is definitely not as good as An Nuan. Right, Qin Yan'an nodded to confirm himself and peeked at Lu Chang'an. Are you asking me something serious? Where are you? How could Lu Chang'an answer such a question? If you don't want to say it, forget it. I know the answer even if you don't tell me, Qin Yan'an snorted. An Nuan must be better at catering to men. Otherwise, Lu Chang'an and An Nuan only had a relationship in December last year. Why are they so tired of spending the night together during the new year? It must be that you know the taste of the marrow. Isn't Yesijin much more pure than An Nuan in this aspect? The last time we had a relationship was during the Republic of China. There is another important matter. Is it business again? It's really business this time. Sumei didn't go back to the Zhu family to celebrate the new year, but there was a big turmoil in the Zhu family. Many people were transferred away from core and key positions by Sumei, and a large number of people were replaced. It seems to have strengthened the control of the Zhu family. Her control? No, this is not called strengthening. It should be that she delegated power before and now centralizes it. Qin Yan'an frowned. She seems to be really planning to make Zhu Huntang the heir. Of course she will let Zhu Huntang be the heir. For Sumei, the Zhu family has always been a white glove. She probably won't treat the Zhu family badly. Back then, when she came to Taiwan from the mainland, the real industry that belonged to the Zhu family actually belonged to it. Not much. The capital that made a comeback all came from the Su family, and the part of capital that belonged to Yechinayu in the hands of Sumei. Qin Yan'an seems to think that Zhu Huntang may not be qualified for the job, but in fact, choosing a better heir may not have much practical significance, because after so many years of development, Sumei's control of wealth and the organizational structure can continue to operate smoothly on its own. If we really want to make this family business bigger again, it is basically no longer a question of whether the heir is good or not. Just like you have 100 million, and you want to choose a successor who can turn 100 million into 200 million. The ability of the heir is of course very important. But if you have 1 trillion, and you choose a successor, is the selection criterion based on his ability to turn 1 trillion into 2 trillion? Sumei chose Zhu Huntang as the heir because Sumei was willing. Regardless of whether Zhu Huntang could effectively dominate and control, if Sumei was happy to put Zhu Huntang in his name, something big went wrong. For example, Zhu Huntang killed someone while driving. As the son of a superpower, Sumei will naturally come out to solve the problem. What's more, in Sumei's view, if Zhu Huntang has a thick thigh, he is somehow better than others. Very good. Lu Chang'an nodded. Qin Yinan looked at Lu Chang'an carefully and felt a little depressed. This was the most frustrating thing when talking to Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan about serious matters. They always nodded after others finished speaking. I won't tell you directly what their views are. But Shang Guandandan is more fun. It may be a bit disrespectful to the Queen Mother to say this, but Qin Yinan really likes to stay with Shang Guandandan. Where is Lu Chang'an? Being with him wasn't much fun. The underground base of Hunan University has also been closed. I only heard Zhongqing say that it will be rebuilt after the new year, and the robots in the glass house are gone. Guan Yuan, the student who always followed Sunangziu, took a leave of absence. South America, I always feel that something big happened that I don't know about. In fact, this is the business that Qin Yinan really wants to know, and he always feels that these things are related to a series of changes in the Zhu family in Taiwan. The man next to him must know the inside story, but he may not take these things to heart as big things in Qin Yinan's eyes, so it is unlikely that he will take the initiative to tell Qin Yinan. She must ask herself. Actually, it's not a big deal. Sunangziu has regained her appearance as Sumei. She stayed in Antarctica and won't come back for a long time in the future, Lu Chang'an said calmly. Ah, Qin Yinan looked at Lu Chang'an in surprise. If Sunangziu returned to the appearance of the third wife, Qin Yinan would not think too much about it, but Sunangziu deliberately restored the appearance of Sumei, so during the period when she and he were in Antarctica, what happened? Must have slept, right? I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 704. In fact, not only did Sunangziu regain her appearance as Sumei, Lu Chang'an also turned into Yechinayu that day, and the enemies who had been separated for hundreds of years truly reunited in their original appearance. She gave me a song called Divination by Li Zai. Lu Chang'an turned around and saw Qin Yinan opening her mouth slightly and her eyes shaking, knowing that she was thinking about some messy things. I live at the head of the Yangtze River, and you live at the end of the Yangtze River. I miss you every day without seeing you, and drink the water of the Yangtze River together. When will this water stop? When will this hatred end? I only hope that your heart will be like mine, and you will live up to my love. Qin Yinan continuing to drive, Lu Chang'an would not talk about whether he and Sumei slept or not, but judging from Lu Chang'an's tone, it was not that he was still merciless towards Sumei. Is it this one? I remember memorizing it in the first grade of elementary school. At that time, I just memorized it. I don't understand the meaning inside. You don't understand it now? Lu Chang'an smiled. It's good if you can memorize it in the first grade of elementary school. Some elementary school students have to struggle to memorize Ode to the Goose. What don't I understand? Isn't this the poem about Li Zai's courtship to Yang Shu? Qin Yinan was a little dissatisfied. Sumei gave it to you, which means that she has been wanting to see you again for so many years, and hopes that you will live up to her love. It's just a little different from what Li Zai expressed. You can also analyze specific situations and do a good job in reading comprehension. As I said, the first prerequisite for reading is to understand the text content specifically, pay attention to the context, connect with the context, and then analyze it in detail. That's it. For example, many people read novels now. Regardless of the context, if they find a word that they think they can use, they will quickly talk about a bunch of cold knowledge that they think can give others a sense of superiority. It seems that they lack even the basic knowledge of reading. Like a fool, Lu Chang'an nodded. Although Lu Chang'an nodded, Qin Yan'an did not think that he agreed with her interpretation. This person's nod often meant, "That's it for you. It seems that you tried your best. Your ability is limited to this. Our level, if it's different, don't communicate." Meanings like that. "You mean I'm a fool?" Qin Yan'an looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. "I'd just say you're a little fool." Qin Yan'an pursed her lips and was slightly shy. Little fool felt quite doting. In the few romance movies I have watched recently, the heroine was always called Little Fool by the male lead dotingly. Susus. I don't like to imitate various accents like Zhu Huntang, but you can substitute Lu Ziqiao's accent and expression in Love Apartment. He often calls people a fool. Lu Chang'an laughed. Qin Yan'an is funny and angry. Sure enough, he is more accustomed to the role of an elder brother. Many elder brothers are like this. They will only pamper their sister-in-law who looks as pure as a white lotus, and violently abuse his sister who is actually really caring, gentle and silently caring about him. More than. However, Qin Yan'an would not call her sister-in-law an Nuan. Back then, Yesijin would call her sister-in-law Sumei. She must have felt uncomfortable all the time. Qin Yan'an should not abuse herself like this. I hate it. After Qin Yan'an calmed down her anger, she gave a coquettish cry and pretended to respond in a coquettish manner. Who wouldn't? By the way, I thought about it carefully. Sumei also mocked you when she gave you this poem. Mean. Tell me. When Yang Shu became famous, it was Chongning. Qin Yan'an couldn't remember, so she turned to look at Lu Chang'an. June 22nd of the first year of Chongning was Huang Tingjian's last day in Dangtu. Yes, Huang Tingjian's famous 7-day official career was in Dangtu. On that day, Huang Tingjian hosted a banquet and invited the singer Yang Shu to accompany him. Yang Shu played a song Lu Shuang Cao, which became a good talk. Later, Li Ziyi was also demoted to the local government. 2. He was very curious about how wonderful Yang Shu was, who even Huang Tingjian was full of praise for. Later, when he heard the sound of Yang Shu's piano again, he wrote a poem and fell in love with her at first sight. Later, he wrote this song Buletin Suanzi to court her. Qin Yan'an said this, stopped the car at the red light, and glanced at Lu Chang'an. Yang Shu was 18 years old when they got married, and Li Ziyi was 59 years old. They had lived together before. Since ancient times, men have always liked girls. It's good that Sumei gave this poem to Yechinayu, but I am Lu Chang'an, and I am also 18 years old this year. Lu Chang'an turned a blind eye to the look in Qin Yan'an's eyes, and continued, the point of Sumei is not to ridicule old cows for eating young grass. But compare yourself to Li Ziyi's ex-wife Hu Wenro. Is she worthy? Qin Yan'an was quite dissatisfied. In terms of poetry, Hu Wenro is no less than Li Qingzhao, not to mention astronomical and geographical knowledge. Shen Kuo was the one who consulted. Su Dongpo also cited Li Ziyi as a confidant. It was Hu Wenro who rescued Li Ziyi from Cai Jing when the accident happened. Also, Li Ziyi gave birth to a son and a daughter to Hu Wenro, so how can Sumei compare with Hu Wenro? Sumei is also very talented. Lu Chang'an also admitted this, but it was a bit funny to see Qin Yan'an's unconvinced look. As a modern woman, your thinking is too bad, and there is a social kidnapping that devalues women's independence. Her reproductive rights are suspected, so why is it that Hu Wenro gave birth to a son and a daughter and became the most unworthy thing about Sumei compared to her? Qin Yan'an hates Lu Chang'an for speaking up for Sumei again, but she is indeed a bit proud. She already has a gestational sac in her belly. Where is Sumei? By the way, when will Zhu Huntang return to Juncha? Lu Chang'an knew that the changes in the Zhu family in Taidao would not affect Zhu Huntang's stay in Juncha. In Sumei's view, it was the safest for Zhu Huntang to stay in Juncha, and Sumei also. I hope Zhu Huntang can stay with Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an had no choice. Facing such a bleeding creature, he couldn't ignore her. She sent me a message this morning, saying that she had customized a pair of unripeable pantyhose. When she returns to Junsha, she will ride on your head and dominate you. Chinyan sighed, in this world there are not many people Chinyan admires, but Zhu Huntang is definitely one of them. Can't you live a good life? Lu Chang'an turned his head calmly and looked at the sky and water outside the window. The car drove slowly across the Jizhu Bridge, and the Bailong Center towered into the clouds in front of him. Arriving at the high-speed rail station, Chinyan parked the car in the parking lot of the high-speed rail station. The two of them entered the exclusive waiting room for business class seats. As soon as they sat down, they found three people sitting opposite. One of the people in the middle was wearing a middle-parted comb. Wearing a mask, he was looking at Chinyan and Lu Chang'an blankly. Chinyan glanced at it, but didn't care. People always looked at her in a daze for various reasons. She was already used to it. As long as she wasn't here to strike up a conversation, she wouldn't pay attention to other people's attention. I remember you, Xie Guangqin, Lu Chang'an recognized you. Last time he and Nuan went to Linan, they met these three people. It's fate. I am Cai Guangqin. Cai Guangqin's eyes rolled around and he shrank away from Chinyan, then he suspected that the man in front of him did it on purpose. The last time he met this man and his girlfriend in the waiting room, my girlfriend recognized herself as Xie Guangqin, and she explained it at that time. Sorry, Lu Chang'an apologized. The two assistants quickly pulled Cai Guangqin without saying a word, changed their positions, and sat at the other end of the waiting room. Hello everyone, I am updating the extra chapter, White Fennel 4, in the V group today to wish everyone a happy new year. I will also try my best to update the continuation of the main text every day in the past few days. I hope you can support me a lot on the occasion of the new year, in order to let everyone spend more. Losing energy to stay at home and celebrate the new year safely, Xiahua decided to work hard to update the main text, sequels, and extra chapters. Each time a leader is added, one extra chapter and two continuation chapters will be added. Considering that there have been no updates in the past few days, there are still a lot of scattered rewards. If the scattered rewards are enough for one leader, the same will be added. Forget it if no one supports it. Xiahua's rice noodle shop needs to hire more people and lacks funds. I feel that business will not be easy in the short term next year. Mata, I got pneumonia as soon as I opened the shop, and there is no place to go.